to be testing our install upgrade of 2017.1. We will be moving from 2016.1 to 2017.1, and as you can see, I've already installed 2016.1 single user. How do I know that I've done that? There's a couple of ways to test it. The first, we would be able to go to Control Panel, Programs and Features, move down to Sage Fixed Assets Depreciation, click on it and look over to the right here. It says that we are running 16.1, and so we can exit this. The next way we can test it is to double click on the icon here on the flash screen. It says 2016. The next way that we can test to see what version that we're on is to open the application all the way up, and here in the window it says that we're running Sage Fixed Assets Depreciation and the version is 2016.1. Also, if you click Help About Depreciation, it says Sage Fixed Assets Depreciation version 2016.1. So those are the ways that you can see what version of the application you are currently running or have installed. The next thing that we would want to do is make sure that we have done a company file backup prior to any update. You want to make sure that you have done a company file backup. The way that we would do the company file backup is go into the application, once we're in the application, we would click on File, Company Utilities, Backup Company. Those are the three companies that are in this particular database. We must remember, if you have multiple databases, and the way that you would see if you had multiple databases is next to the database tab, you would click the down arrow. If there are multiple databases, then it would show more databases than just the one that's showing right now. If that is the case, then you would have to back up every company in that particular database in succession. So what we want to do on this, since this database only has three companies, we don't have to back those companies up individually. We would back them up all together. The way that we would do that is to click Select All. Now, as you're entering assets or you're purchasing assets and enter them into the system, you may find a need to put attachments. If you scan an invoice document and you attach that document to the asset, then that becomes an attachment associated with that asset and it goes in an attachments folder. You would want to include those PDF attachments in your backup. So then we would click Next. Then you would give the backup a name. Since this is being done prior to upgrading to 2017.1 and in your previous version, I like to name mine Pre-2017 Upgrade Company Backup. I also like to put a date. Today's date is 09/22/2017 and a time. The time of the morning it is 08/27. Then you would click Backup. I am not going to do a backup, but you would click Backup. That would back up all of those company files into one backup file, and that would be a .bbk extension. So now that our backup is done, we would close the application. Previous versions, you would have had to uninstall the application. 2016.1, upgrading to 2017.1, you don't have to do that. Now, let's go ahead and do our upgrade. We have already downloaded the application. This is our Sage Fixed Assets 2017.1. I am going to delete this directory and go through the full extract process. So you would right click on the zip file, click extract all. Now this is asking you where you want to put it. To keep it simple, just put it right where the default is. So I'm going to click extract. Now it is extracting the files that are in the zip file. Once that's done, it will take us over to a directory. This is the main directory. We would click and go into that directory. Now we would right click on the setup.exe. We want to tell this to run as administrator. A lot of people will say that I don't need to run it as administrator because I'm already logged in as administrator. You may be logged in as domain admin. Domain admin has no impact on our installation. Our installation wants you to run it as the local administrator. So to save yourself a lot of pain, just right click and tell it to run as administrator. As that's prepping, now it comes up and says you have requested to run this application as administrator. Are you sure this is what you want to do? We will simply click yes. Now it will start the install process. If there are any prerequisite items that needs to be installed, setup will identify that. Okay, it comes up to our install shield. You can read this information on your own as you're doing your install. Here I'm just going to simply click next. This is the end user license agreement. Please read this, print it off if you have to, but read it. Click yes. Now this is telling us, unlike previous versions, we had to uninstall previous versions that were lower than 2016.1 but higher than 2012.1. It is telling us that we have found a previous version of the application installed on your system. We will now go through a process to remove that application and install 2017.1. Do we want to proceed? Yes, we want to proceed. So then it will start going through its install process. And the reason why I do not pause any of my videos, as I stated in my previous video, upgrading from 2014.1 2015.1 single user version, is because I want to show you the exact amount of time it will take you to go from start to finish with an upgrade, which will allow you to schedule time within your maintenance window with an end user so that they will know how long their system will be out of commission. So that is why. So if you looked at our start time, and you will see our end time, that will give you an idea of how long it will take to upgrade from 2016.1 single user to 2017.1 single user. Now I'm going to go ahead and let this finish its install. Phase one of the install is almost complete. And phase one of the install was the actual removal of the previous software version, because if you notice now on the desktop, the depreciation icon has been removed through this process. Now, once the system finishes the removal process, the next thing that it will do is start to install the 2017.1 single user. So now if you notice, during the install process, phase two of the upgrade, it has now installed 3 icons on your desktop: depreciation, planning, and tracking. The reason why it does that, 2017.1 is a one-click install all type installer. The reason why that is, in the past, customers had requested that it not be so cumbersome to install the application as individual components. So what the application provider did was combined all of the installs into one. So it is now a one-click install all. So even though you did not purchase planning or tracking, it will install that application. And in this scenario that we're doing, the only thing that was purchased was the depreciation. So I will show you 2 ways that you can remove the planning and the tracking icon from the end user workstation's desktop. So let's go ahead and let this finish installing. Now that our installation is complete, we will go ahead and click Finish, and we will close our application. Now that we're in Windows Explorer, let's go back to our directory structure. So we'll click on the C drive, and we'll click on the Program Files. And if you notice, it did not install any new directories or create any new directories. The only thing it did was install it in the default directory here, because the default location for the install is here, which gave the application the ability to notice that we already had a previous version installed. And that was the notification that it gave us when it initially started to install. Now, as I said, we already know that we only purchased one application, but since 2017.1 is a one-click install all type application install, then what we'll do now is we'll remove these 2 icons here. The first way that you can do it is to delete the icon. So what you would do is either delete them individually by clicking on one and then right click and tell it delete, or you can click on one, hold down your control key and click on your next icon, right click and tell it delete. Now that will just remove the icons. It will leave the application installed on the system. So this is the most expedient way to do it. The proper way you would want to do it is to click on Start, go into Control Panel, Programs and Features, slide down to the Sage Fixed Assets, click once, and then click on Change. What this will do is allow us to modify our install. So here we would select, let's modify the application, then we would click Next. So in order to remove the application and the two icons from the desktop, we only want to have Sage Fixed Assets Depreciation selected. So we would unselect Tracking and Planning and click Next. Now if you take a close look at my desktop, you will notice that the two icons here will go away. They have now been removed. So in the future, if you purchase either of those modules, then you would have to go back in to Control Panel, Sage Fixed Assets, click Change. We'll wait until that finishes. Let's refresh this really quick. Now let's go back down to the Fixed Assets. Let's click on here, and you would have to click Change. Then Modify and click Next, and then you would uncheck what you didn't want to install, and you would check the application you want to install. Make sure that it's checked. Then you would click Next. That will install that application for you. But we aren't going to do that. We'll click Cancel because we've already removed the two applications that we didn't purchase. So now we go back to our desktop. We'll close that. Let's double click on the depreciation icon. Now you see it says version 2017.1. That's the first way that we'll check it. Second way, is to open the application completely. Here we look to the top left of the screen. It says Sage Fixed Assets Depreciation, which is our single user version. And to the right, our version number is 2017.1. Or we can click on Help, About Sage Fixed Assets, Sage Fixed Assets Depreciation, which is what it says here, version 2017.1, which is what it says here. So then we just click OK. And now we are ready to begin using our Sage Fixed Assets 2017.1 single user version.